Good morning, Parrish.
Gary, how are you, man? And what's that guy saying in that bumper music?
Well, you have to listen really, really, really close. And that's the thing about some of the rock and roll. The lyrics are secondary to the music. You know that, man.
I thought I heard Roll Tide in there somewhere. Okay.
You probably did. Hey, you're on this Ole Miss beat like few others. You've been on it for a number of years. You're connected to the program. And I want to get your take on the latest. The Associated Press citing a source with knowledge of the NCAA investigation reported on Tuesday that there are 28 violations total, 13 of them in the football program, 9 of them involving the current coaching staff led by Hugh Freeze. Now, the reason I bring that up is because when the story first broke that Ole Miss had received a letter of allegations, there was a lot of spin that most of the allegations were going to be pre-Hugh Freeze, most of them under the former coaching staff led by Houston Nutt, and the few violations that were going to be involving the current coaching staff had already been handled, and I know a lot of that involves Laramie Tunsil, but what does this mean, this report, and are the folks at Ole Miss nervous?
Well, what I get back from folks around the program is, again, that they believe that they're not nervous. They believe that they're going to come out of this okay. The spin that came out, you're right, said many of the violations were from a previous administration, Houston Nutt, and that many of them had already been reported. Well, I think what the numbers are saying, and the AP report is the first time we've had numbers, hard, fast numbers associated with this. 28 violations across 3 sports, 13 in football, 9 attached to Freeze. Okay, well, if 9 are attached to Freeze, go back to the second part of that spin, that many had already been publicly reported, acknowledged, and dealt with. All right? If you have 9 violations attached to Freeze, I count 5 of those with the Laramie Tunsil deal.
Okay.
There was another player, C.J. Hampton, who was suspended earlier this season. At the time, we were told it was that phrase that every school loves to trot out there, violation of team rules. All right, I've often asked for a list of team rules, but we haven't gotten one of those yet. Anyway, it was widely speculated that Hampton was suspended for an NCAA matter. He was out 3 games, and he came back. Well, that's a 6th violation. The AP story mentioned 2 secondary violations that were self-reported at the end of that story. Well, you're up to 8 right there. My point is, I think people read level 1 and they get really concerned. The story did not indicate under which administration there was 1 or more level 1 violations. I don't know, Gary, how the NCAA sets its scale for level 1, 2, and 3. I mean, it's possible that there was a level 1, I would think, in the Tunsil stuff based on just the scope and the time and how long those violations were. But I don't know that. I don't know the NCAA's definition of level 1. But look, anytime you have an NCAA investigation ongoing, you shouldn't be concerned, okay? Because regardless of how you interpret their actions and what they're doing, you don't know what they're going to come back with. You know, you look and you see, well, they handle this case, this school this way, and school A over here self-sanctioned themselves to this level, and the NCAA accepted that, or maybe there's a case over here where they did not accept. You know, you're just looking at history and trying to gauge how your case is going to come out. But the bottom line is, you know, you just don't know, and when there's an ongoing investigation, there is cause for concern.
Great stuff already from Parrish Alford, the Ole Miss beat writer for the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal in Tupelo, joining us to talk about the latest on Ole Miss. One good piece of news for Ole Miss has already transpired, and that was that on National Signing Day, another top 5 class for the Rebels. So the fact that the story broke that the letter had been received the letter of allegations, it did not seem to affect the recruiting class at all, Parrish.
Well, and you would think that they were able to share a little bit more with those recruits who are about to commit 3 or 4 years than they are sharing with the media, or that they are sharing for public consumption. That's just a theory. But Hugh Freeze was not pleased with the timing of all that, but said in the end he felt like the relationships that they established in recruiting won out over the news of the letter of allegations. They had several opportunities. It happened right at the beginning of the last visit, the last weekend for official visits before signing day. So, like many schools, they had a lot of recruits on campus. They were able to address the letter with them on separate times. They addressed the letter with the recruits collectively as a group. Freeze met with recruits individually and addressed the letter again. Ross York, during the weekend, met with recruits and answered questions about the NCAA. So they had, the timing they might not have been happy with, but they had the opportunity to take that information and share it however they saw fit. And that was a good thing.
Parrish, you are around the program. Coach Freeze, and let's just cut to the chase here. He hears what's being said. I know the Ole Miss coaches do. People that cover the program are saying things, are hearing what people around the country are saying. Listen, there's no way Ole Miss should be able to recruit like this. There's nothing in their recent history that indicated they were going to be able to bring in the kind of talent they brought in. Yeah, Coach Nutt upped it a little bit. He signed a lot of guys, but still nothing like the classes that we're seeing. I mean, that's what's being said. Why are all these guys from all around the country going to Ole Miss? The Treadwells, the Kim Deechees, the Tunsels. What do you think, or has Coach Nutt or Coach Freeze talked to you guys that cover the beat off the record about any of that stuff? Do you think it bothers the Ole Miss coaching staff when they hear things like what's going on at Ole Miss? Something's got to be fishy. Your take on how they handle all that.
I think it does bother Hugh Freeze. I haven't asked him specifically what he thinks of what's being said. Anytime that topic is approached in an interview setting, the response is typically, let us know. We want to know. Contact our compliance office. If there's something improper, we want to deal with it. That was a very public statement that he made in 2013 around the Laramie Tunsil signing. A lot of people took him up on that offer, and Ole Miss followed up a lot of leads. Now, what we were told is they did not find anything in the leads they followed to make them believe that anything improper had taken place. Now, I talked with Freeze around the Sugar Bowl that week there, and we were talking about recruiting, and I said, look, but, how do you approach recruiting the national guys, the high-profile guys? How do you spend time on that? How do you divvy it up with, the other time demands within recruiting? You go back and you look at 13. They had Kendichi's brother, they had Denzel already on the team. That helped them with Robert. But his answer was, my staff goes out. They begin the process of building relationships. They come back and they say to me, here is player A. These are the people around him. These are the people important in his life. His coach, his mother, his father, his uncle. Coach Freeze, I think we got a chance here because when you get with his mother, y'all are going to really hit it off. Y'all are going to talk about this. There's going to be a strong relationship built there. So they identify kids that way. They identify the kids they think that they can build relationships with, the kids they think can fit in the program, and they may identify 4, 5, or 6 players like that they want to really invest time in. They're not casting just a wide net across the country. They invested a lot of time with the Juarez kid in Los Angeles, or the signed with UCLA. They weren't able to get him out of California. They invested time with Rashawn Gary. But that's because they believed that when they got down to it, that they were going to have things in common with the important people around that recruit.
All right, Parrish, we got 30 seconds here. I appreciate the time. Of course, the naysayers would say, when Coach Freeze says, if you find anything, let us know, the naysayers would say, well, obviously something was found. That's why you got the letter of allegations and the potential violations here. Your gut feeling, though, on if this thing is going to turn into something big or if it's just going to wind up being minor, just 30 seconds, how do you feel like it's all going to turn out?
Well, my gut feeling is that it does not turn up being really big, okay? Because that's what I'm hearing from the people around the program. Now, I don't have a source at the NCAA, okay? But the way it's being interpreted around the program is that it's not going to be big.
Thank you, Parrish. Good stuff, folks. If you want to keep up with Ole Miss, you can follow Parrish on Twitter at Parrish Alford, ParrishAlford, or read him online at the Mississippi Northeast Daily Journal website. Thank you, Parrish.
Gary, have a good day.